Had a great chat with him yesterday morning. The voice was very hoarse. I think he was probably still in his pajamas, but he was obviously feeling pretty good after a pretty emphatic win, as you saw yesterday.
Despite the ideological difference, I assume it's business as usual and we get on well.
Yeah, it's really interesting, actually. Even though we're different political parties, I guess the centre might be slightly different in both countries, but actually, Key got on very well with Gillard, and actually that some of the best collaborations at a personal level have been, from leaders in different parties. Albanese I knew before I came to politics, and so, we've got a great friendship, actually.
Did you know Dutton?
I knew him a little bit. I met with him a couple of times here in New Zealand, and I'd sort of talked to him a few times when I was over in Australia as well. So, really decent individual. I thought I sent him a text and spoke to him as well, and just said I thought he gave a very classy concession speech. Pretty difficult when he got a result like he got, and wished him well for the future. So he appreciated that. So
what do you make of the world? So much is being made of you go, and I know you commented on it yesterday. You go to stability and what you know, and yet in Britain they didn't.
Yeah,
they tipped it on its head. So is the world really moving to what we know? Or
I think the results I looked at, I spoke to Mark Carney yesterday as well in Canada, and I also spoke with Lawrence Wong, the Singapore Prime Minister as well. Different political system, but actually he lifted his result in the popular vote, which was good. And then obviously Anthony in Australia. And I think those three elections just say to you, people are acknowledging, and I see it, people are anxious about what's going on in the world at the moment. We've also got, they're coming through difficult times with inflation and all of that stuff. And they want strong economic management in uncertain times, and that's what, our government's been pretty relentlessly focused on from day one, because that's the thing that matters most to New Zealanders. And when you start talking about other stuff other than that, that's not what they're interested in, because they want you there to fix the problems that they're experiencing.
David Seymour says we got too many ministers. Is he correct?
Well, no, I think actually it's about delivery of that public service, and so I'm very comfortable with what the setup is, but I'm uncomfortable with the performance we're getting out of the public service, and I want more. And so for me, it's not about the number of ministers, it's actually about the size of the ministries that are supporting those ministers, and more importantly, the effectiveness of them. As I've said to you before, I think we're making some good progress. We talk the language of outcomes and results, and I meet with the CEs of the public service. We've obviously made quite a few changes in personnel and staff, and that's making a big difference when you get the right leader in the right department. Think about what's happened at Housing New Zealand with Simon Mutter and others. That's been really positive. So, no, I think at the moment, interesting intellectual idea, you can look at that down the road, but for right now, we need delivery out of the public service.
MB have 19 reporting lines to ministers. I mean, that's nuts. Is that too many ministers, or is that what you're arguing the department?
Well, I think, if you look at MB, there's been a massive growth in FTE, people in that department. There's been a lot of growth in some of the public service. We've just got to keep, pruning that back and also getting it very, very focused. I've tried to simplify by having ministers that have clusters of like sort of activities or portfolios around them to make better sense, so there's more coherency to it. But there's things that we could continue to do to improve the public service and the wiring of which units go everywhere. But to be honest, do I want to spend the next 12 months radically restructuring the public service and actually not delivering improved outcomes? I want the outcomes and the efficiencies.
Okay.
And the only thing I'd say, Mike, on the public service is I think the big opportunity is in technology. I think if we could digitise government, where you as a customer dealing with the government, and you are a customer, actually could use technology in a way you would simplify the back end of it really well. And if you look at what's happened in places like Estonia and Singapore and the UAE, they know your Mike, and they know that you've got a number of kids, and you can do an AI sort of natural language query about what your entitlements might be versus going to a health website and education website. So we could backward engineer simplicity of the public service through technology.
That's a mindset. I mean, Singapore also runs the country with a handful of ministers, and the Prime Ministers pay $2 million a year, and they're just a completely different country. They're a different mindset.
That's a different setup. But Estonia is an MMP type environment like us. The UAE is obviously a different model. But my point is, I want the public service to think of the public of New Zealand as customers, and they are large service organisations, as you would expect outside of in the private sector as well.
Audrey Young, do you read her piece and score with 8? You got an 8 from her in her annual marking. Yeah. And she says this: better at managing the government internally than selling it domestically. Is that fair?
Oh, look, I think you're constantly reflecting on what more you can do better, and I'm sure there's better communication I could do, and I've got to keep working at that, and I will. But for me, I came to politics 4 years ago because I want the country to realise its potential. I think it's a great country, and I don't think we have. I've brought a lot of managerial sort of approach to what I'm doing. I've got my team, I think the right ministers on the right assignments with real clarity and holding them to account and supporting them when they need that. And obviously running the public service with quarterly targets and all those kinds of things. So yeah, that I do think that CEO background's actually quite useful for the time that we're in.
The critics are here on yesterday's announcement. Defend this. What's the quickest way to get your military spend into 2% of GDP so we can say we're doing our bit? Go and waste $2 billion on 5 helicopters. You say what?
No, that's rubbish. What's different on the defence plan is that in the past you'd have people say we're going to do all this stuff, but there was no money associated with the investments. We've got a really clear plan for 15 years of the capabilities and the skills we want to build into the Defence Force in New Zealand that will then plug in well with the Australians and other defence partners. And what's unique here is we've put spending associated with that. So we will spend $12 billion over the next 4 years. In the first budget announcement you'll see coming up this year, that announcement will be there'll be around $2 billion for those 5 Marine helicopters. We need those helicopters. That's a right capability for us to have when we do emergency management in the Pacific and back here at home.
I know you're not going to answer, and I probably asked you this before, but it came to my mind yesterday when you announced $12 billion is a stunning amount of money.
Yeah, it's over 4 years.
I understand that, and 9 of it's new, and we don't have any of it. So Nicola, in announcing 1.3 instead of 2.4 as she did last week, must have found a shed load of dough somewhere in terms of savings. Has she?
Again, I'm going to give you the wrong answer that you're not going to like, but it is. I'm not going to talk about it.
Otherwise, it just doesn't add up.
Well, I can tell you it does add up, and it's within our fiscal track. And so I appreciate people have lots of questions about how we're going to fund it and do that. That will be revealed as we deal with the budget.
It will all make sense.
It will all make sense. And what you're going to see is a budget that is actually saying, yep, we know we're in tough and uncertain times, but we have turned the corner, and actually things are getting better. Now we actually want to make sure that we are investing for growth, and that's why we're calling it the growth budget. But it's also going to be responsible because we have to pay down that debt over time. We actually have to get our books in much better shape than what they have been, and so it will be responsible, and that's what you should expect from a government led by Nicola and myself.
John Ryan's report into have you read it? Do you know what I'm talking about? The iwi relations and the deals that have been done with Maori over the years. He's on his way out, isn't he? Isn't he, John Ryan, leaving? Auditor General?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
I thought he was. Anyway, he's written this major report that says basically none of the government departments are meeting Maori expectations as a result of the treaty process. In other words, you sign a treaty deal and no one follows up.
Yeah, look, I think
not one of them's got a KPI. A target, nothing.
Yeah, so
fair or not?
No. Well, there is an issue there which I've spoken with Tama about, and we've talked that through. Essentially, what happens is you do a treaty settlement, and then there are obligations on the Crown and on iwi to work together.
He says you're not meeting any of them.
Well, I think that we can do. I agree with that. I don't think we've done a good enough job of following through on the actions. And I meet with typically some of those iwi each year with my set of ministers, and the key question is, and Tama's now getting it gripped up. But we do have a plan to actually say, right, are you following through on those actions and those commitments that we've made? Okay. And I do think we can do a better job on that.
Is Tama coming back to you in my lifetime on the review of the Waitangi Tribunal?
Yes, he is. He's working on that right now. So,
well, no, you say that every time. I know. I'm sure he's working on it. When's he going to produce something that's got something?
I'm not sure on the timing. I can tell you that he is.
Well, when you was last with you said, where the hell's the report on the Waitangi Tribunal, Tama? Or words to that effect.
No, he's very clear about what he's expected to deliver, and that's one of the things he's working very closely on. So.
Tom Rutherford.
Yep.
Tell me about him. Have you heard this morning's story?
No, what's the story?
He stopped in the middle of a highway. There was a man who was in some mental distress.
Yep.
Do you know the story now?
No.
Okay, so he's in some mental distress. He's in the middle of the highway over the weekend. Tom's on his way home from the market. He stops, put his life at risk to help this guy off the state highway. Yeah. Is that Tom?
Yeah,
the Tom that you know?
That is a great young man, and he's got a great future. And he's someone I've spent a lot of time with, and he really cares about people. He's a great rugby referee. Does all sorts of things in his community. He's just a stand-up, classy guy.
Good. Did you go to Adrian Orr's farewell?
No, I didn't.
Because there was no booze.
I don't think I was invited.
No, there was no booze. There was $6,000 for a gift. There were sausage rolls and cookies and water and juice. Is that what the public service is down to now? Is that a public service farewell?
Bread and water.
Is that a public service farewell?
I don't know. I mean, those are decisions for the Public Service Commissioner, but I wasn't invited to the farewell.
Okay.
So I can't
Does he owe us an explanation as to why he quit?
Well, look, I mean...
do you know why he quit?
No, I don't. I mean, I just know that he made his own independent decision.
But did he split it out? Don't you want to know? I mean, he held one of the most significant roles in the public service of this country and took us through an extraordinary economic journey.
Yeah.
And he just vanished.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we
came back for some biscuits and some juice. And then vanished again.
Well, I mean, all I can say is that we've come in as a new government. We respect the independence, as you would expect me to say, of the Reserve Bank of New Zealand, as we should. But we focused it on a mandate of killing inflation, which it started to do, which it has done, which is good. That has led to interest rates coming down. That's putting money in Kiwis' pockets. So I'm focused on the future. I can't really deal with the past and
all right.
and what did or didn't happen through that period.
Appreciate your time. Christopher Luxon, it's 12 away from 8.
Get in quick to snatch up these great deals at New World this week. Get Pam's pre-cooked sausages 1 kg, $8.99 each. Or Tip Top Super Soft Bread 700 grams, $4.09 each. Now that's New World value. Sizes, limits, exclusions apply.
Smith & Smith Repair.
When you get a chip on your windscreen, you need to get onto it right away. Our simple online booking service makes it easy and convenient. Visit smithandsmith.co.nz to book your repair.